The capital. The United States Capitol in Washington, D.C., is a symbol of the American people and our government and the meeting place of the nation's legislature, the U.S. Congress. The Capitol is a working office building, but it is also the place where visitors from around the United States and the world come to learn about American democracy. Lincoln Memorial. The Lincoln Memorial is a national monument in Washington, D.C., United States, built to commemorate the 16th President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. The building, an example of the neoclassical style, is located at the western end of the National Mall. Washington Monument. The Washington Monument is a famous monument in Washington, D.C., United States. It is a monument commemorating George Washington. It was the tallest structure in the world until the Eiffel Tower was built. National Mall. The National Mall is a public park located in the center of Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States. The park contains many museums, monuments, and is one of the city's most famous tourist attractions, with about 24 million visitors each year. Due to its historical and urban value, the National Mall is often a place for gatherings and demonstrations. The park was designed by Pierre Charles Lanfan. White House. The White House is the official residence and office of the President of the United States. It is located at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, D.C.
Pentagon. Of the United States Department of Defense and the United States Armed Forces. It is located at 48 Rotary Road, Arlington, Virginia, 22211 and is the symbol of the United States Armed Forces. The word Pentagon is more commonly used to refer to the Department of Defense. It is actually 5 buildings attached to each other, and these buildings include the Army Headquarters, the Air Force Headquarters, the Navy Headquarters, the General Staff of the Army, and the Department of Defense. Arlington National. Arlington National Cemetery is a national and historic cemetery in the United States. It is located in Arlington, Virginia. National Museum. The National Museum of Natural History is a cultural center in the United States, located in Washington, D.C. It is part of the Smithsonian Institution. National Museum of American History. The National Museum of American History is a cultural center in the United States. It is part of the Smithsonian Institution. Thomas Jefferson Memorial. National. This marble monument is located in a downtown area on the east bank of the Potomac River. Opened in 1943, it is now a major tourist attraction in Washington, D.C. Martin Luther King, Jr. Memorial. The Martin Luther King, Jr. Memorial is a national memorial located in West Potomac Park next to the National Mall in Washington, D.C., United States. It covers 4 acres, 1.6 hectares, and includes the Stone of Hope, a granite statue of civil rights movement leader Martin Luther King Jr. carved by sculptor Leeson. The inspiration for the memorial design is a line from King's "I Have a Dream" speech, "Out of the Mountain of Despair, a Stone of Hope." The memorial opened to the public on August 22, 2011, after more than 2 decades of planning, fundraising, and construction. Ford's Theater. Ford's Theater is a historic theater in Washington, D.C. that has hosted many plays since the early 1860s. It is also the site of the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, on April 14, 1865. After being seriously wounded, Lincoln was taken to the Patterson House, where he died the next morning. National Gallery of Art. The National Gallery of Art, founded in 1937, is one of the most famous cultural centers in the United States. Library of Congress. The Library of Congress, LOC, is a research library in Washington, D.C. serving as the library and research service for the United States Congress and the de facto National Library of the United States. It also administers copyright law through the United States Copyright Office. The Supreme Court. The Supreme Court of the United States, SCOTUS, is the highest court in the federal judiciary of the United States. It has ultimate appellate jurisdiction over all U.S. federal court cases, and over state court cases that turn on questions of U.S. constitutional or federal law. It also has original jurisdiction over a narrow range of cases, specifically all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, and those in which a state shall be party. In 1803, the court asserted itself the power of judicial review, the ability to invalidate a statute for violating a provision of the Constitution via the landmark case Marbury v. Madison. It is also able to strike down presidential directives for violating either the Constitution or statutory law. Georgetown. Georgetown is a historic neighborhood and commercial district in northwest Washington, D.C. situated along the Potomac River. Founded in 1751 as part of the colonial-era province of Maryland, Georgetown predated the establishment of Washington, D.C. by 40 years. Georgetown was an independent municipality until 1871 when the United States Congress created a new consolidated government for the entire District of Columbia. A separate act, passed in 1895, repealed Georgetown's remaining local ordinances and renamed Georgetown streets to conform with those in Washington, D.C. Cathedral. The Cathedral Church of St. Peter and St. Paul in the City and Diocese of Washington, commonly known as Washington National Cathedral or National Cathedral, is a cathedral of the Episcopal Church. The cathedral is located in Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States. The structure is of neo-Gothic design closely modeled on English Gothic style of the late 14th century. It is the second largest church building in the United States, and the third tallest building in Washington, D.C. The cathedral is the seat of both the presiding bishop of the Episcopal Church and the bishop of the Diocese of Washington. Over 270,000 people visit the structure annually.